Series finale coming up at 1:35. The weather has been shaky. Might be some rain during the game if they even started on time at 1:35. Definitely would have been sketchy getting into the nighttime. I believe Chicago goes to Cincy, and the Orioles will host Kansas City coming up tomorrow, last homestand before the All-Star break. But, Ryan, first of all, how you feeling?
I'm good, Bob. It's always good to see you. I know in the baseball sense here, maybe not as good.
No.
But, yeah, you know what? I'm just happy to see you. I'm glad to be rolling with Nolan, BS, and with Bob.
Correct.
And consider this a therapy session. I know people would like to call in, and we can have this, and maybe it's just expressing your opinions, whatever it is. You know, I'd love to hear what's on people's minds.
410-583-1057 is the number to do so. And the first hour plus of the program, and first hour was basically all calls. And it wasn't even running hot per se.
Yeah.
It was more definitely frustration, some level of misery, but resignation to the fact that they might be done. And I said today, and I will stress this for all of our listeners who know, going back 27 years, WNST, I'm usually wrong. But if they lose today and get swept, they're done. In regards, I will stick a fork in them personally. Nolan did it last week as a playoff hopeful team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are only two teams behind them right now in the wild card standing. So that means there's a bunch of others in front of the Tigers past them in the wild card standings. Now, I hope I'm wrong. And yes, they're only 4.5 out of the wild card, but they're spiraling in the wrong direction. And since Mike Elias said a couple of weeks ago, Ryan, that they're going to be all in, I think they won 3 games.
3-7.
Yeah.
So, and here's this stretch since that conversation, which was, I believe that Saturday, June 27th, I think was when he had the press conference. It wasn't the opener of the series.
It was the Nats series.
Yeah.
Right?
So let's just take after the opening game, where the Orioles won that opener on the 26th. Well, let's go after that. They won that game, which had them winning 4 of their last 6 going into that. Then on June 27th, they proceeded to lose that game in extra innings against the Nats and proceeded to lose the next 3. So they were on a 4-game losing streak. And then win the finale against the White Sox. You go and win the first 2 games against the Reds. You're on a 3-game winning streak. And I think I mentioned this on Baltimore Baseball Tonight when they opened up against the Reds on Tuesday, was the Cubs across from them are streaky. And in a pinch, they can come in and sweep you when they feel good, or you just don't play consistent ball. And what do we have so far here, Bob? The Orioles lose that finale against Cincy. They've lost the previous 2 games in this series against Chicago, trying to avoid the sweep, like you said. In the standings wise, as a player, I'll tell you, you're always going to continue to fight, but it's demoralizing to an extent when you keep thinking you're going to get there and you're not getting there. We're almost at 100 games, Bob.
Yeah.
And what makes me sick for fans is the biggest thing I heard is, how the hell is this happening? They're worse this year at this point than last year's 2025 Orioles, who fired Brandon Hyde and then moved on from the majority of their coaching staff and made these changes and restructured. They're a worse team statistically. And that's the part with the talent that they have on this team. It's probably a deeper conversation, Bob, and I've heard people throw this around. For expectations for a team and results, this can be arguably one of the most disappointing seasons for Orioles fans in probably my lifetime, with given what they were supposed to do.
And I know you have Bob Nightingale on your show, the Ryan Ripken Show. Bob, a friend of the show here on 105.7 The Fan, and he talking about the window just slamming shut, which we'll get to. But we did the whip around last hour. And going back to 23. 3 years ago today, the Orioles clobbered the Twins in Minnesota. Santander, 2 homers. Urias, Hicks, Adley, and Austin Hayes all went deep. Kyle Gibson went 11 Ks, picked up the win. All right, Kyle Gibson's out of baseball. So is Aaron Hicks. Ramon Urias is in St. Louis, but he's hurt right now. Adley's still here, going to the All-Star game like he did that year. But go back to the midpoint of 24 when, because of injuries, I guess, and bullpen woes, Austin Hayes, was he on his expiring contract in 24?
Yes.
And he was traded to Philadelphia.
Correct.
Who came up with a lot of these guys. You know him, obviously. Was that kind of a beginning of, not saying clubhouse chemistry is everything, because if you win, everybody gets along fine. But when one of the dudes that kind of helped you get, who was an all-star just the year before, well, this year, 23, did that kind of maybe tweak things a little bit in regards to chemistry and, maybe trusting the front office, things of that nature, or am I making too much of this?
I think it's more of you lost guys that had more value than you realized, in my opinion. Now, I don't blame, for the record, Hayes, you moved on. No problem. Unfortunately, hasn't stayed healthy. I think they made a correct move there. Santander, he signed for $90 million with the Blue Jays. Correct move. Nothing with that. It's the problem of the gap that it led. That's what has been undervalued and underappreciated, because let's go back to 2024 for a second. You mentioned this. Santander was the leading RBI guy on that team. He had 102 RBIs in 2024. And actually, we want to go back to 2023. If you're curious, and I already know the answer, but I'll tell the listeners because you're curious. You know who the leading RBI guy was in 2023?
Santander.
Santander. How about that? Do we dare play this game one more time? Who was the leading RBI guy back in 2022?
When they turned it around.
Yes.
Santander.
That is correct. And also, who was second in RBIs that year? Was Ryan Mountcastle with 85.
There you go.
But in 2024, let's now go back or push it back to that 2024 year. Santander had 102 RBIs. Gunnar Henderson had 92. Adley 79, and then you had Kowser and Westberg, both in the 60s. Mountie in the 60s, dealt with some injuries, or the vertigo, I believe, was the situation there. O'Hearn wasn't playing every day, but had a solid year. So right there, you had two guys that were on pace for 90-plus RBIs, or already had that, I should say, and then Adley almost at 80. The 2026 Orioles now. Pete Alonso is going to approach 100. He's going to be there. There's no other Oriole that's on pace for 80 RBIs. And maybe I got to get my listing right. Adley might be, technically. We're at 93 games now. So we have, 69 games left in the season. So whatever it may be, you are on the cusp of your second RBI guy on your team maybe sniffing 80 RBIs when it was Santander with 102 and Gunnar with 92. So when we're looking at this, the offense hasn't done what you wanted to do. And I love Taylor Ward. I think that he's been great at times. Taylor Ward had 100 RBIs last year, Bob. He's got 24 this year. And this is no hate to any of the guys. You know how much I care about these guys, but this is just the results in the business. You didn't pick up the slack from losing your big RBI guy in Santander. You didn't pick up the pieces getting rid of Ryan O'Hearn last year. That was a huge loss. If you're going to talk about any chemistry, that dude to me was so undervalued. And I think anybody will tell you that in a locker room of what Ryan O'Hearn means. And now he's going off, and arguably he's the best free agent offseason acquisition for any team. I could go on a rant about this more, Bob, but when we're looking at this, there was an undervalue of you wanted to fill the holes, but you undervalued just how challenging that was going to be.